Let's simplify how one troop can get you 3 stars in war every single time. What's going on, my friends? My name's Corrupt. Let's start simple with the Zap Witches. Usually when you are doing base identification for this attack, most of the time it's looking for the multi-infernos, the town hall, and the eagle artillery. If you see these 3 buildings in a line, it's usually going to let you know that this is the best attack for this particular base. You may have noticed as well that this is a box style base and none of the corners here have a gap in there where there wouldn't be this wall. And that's really to show that this works against bases that aren't the pro bases that you see commonly throughout Town Hall 12 from my videos, of course. So you want to be able to make sure that you're getting all the way across the base. Usually you're going to start this attack off by using the lightning spells. You are going to use 4 lightning on each Inferno Tower. So you're going to be using 4 lightning and 1 earthquake on each particular Inferno. You can only do this on 2 of them, unfortunately, leaving 1 Inferno Tower up. This is where that is exactly where you're going to be hitting from, unless it is a single Inferno. But usually that definitely depends. If there's a single Inferno, like in this case, you can do so. Now, usually using golems and ice golems is the best tank for you to use while using witches. That way you have the golems and the ice golems to provide a tank for not only the log launcher, but for your heroes and your witches. Now, you can always go ahead and bring super giants. If you don't want to bring ice golems and golems, or you don't want to use dark elixir for the tanks, you can always boost up super giants, as they pretty much provide so much more support for only 10 housing space. Now, as the witches are moving through, you've got no spell support for them outside of the free spells, which sometimes you may want to use to protect the log launcher. Usually the log launcher is the best against single target infernos, but you can always use the wall wrecker if you want a bit more tankage for any witches or heroes that go into the base, which of course you want your heroes to go into the base. Now, the main thing is you could also bring super witches, as they can provide a bit more help and support for the rest of your push into the base. It makes it very simple because now you have big boys that have the same health almost as a super giant with the super giants. Usually you also want to try and prevent the log launcher from getting taken down too quickly, so using the Warden Eternal Tome is the best bet for you, as you're going to be able to protect your witches and everything for longer, because you want everything to move in a very similar way as you're able to push in, while you've got the witches going in on the sides. Usually the mortars and the wizard towers are going to be your biggest threats, so getting rid of them as quickly as you can is exactly what you want to do. You also want to make sure that you're bringing either a P.E.K.K.A, an ice golem, or even yetis in the clan castle to provide more support. Usually the yetis are a great one, as they have the yeti mites and they can hit over walls, so pretty much that is a plus, and that's almost one of the reasons why you should bring yetis over ice golem and P.E.K.K.A s. But normally it's to each their own. You want to be able to easily move through, and even if one single mortar, like this one here, is able to get through witches, you'll still have any witches that are left over in the core. Now, some may say that this was a bit of a stretch in a way, but you've got so many little skeletons that most of the time you're going to be able to still get through, unlike that one where the mortar just roasted them. But the biggest thing is being able to use the skeletons to distract, making it far easier for you to get through the base designs. It's really never over until everything dies out. Usually you'll still have your queen ability unless she isn't maxed, then you may want to bring those super giants just to be safe, but usually this is a great option. I wouldn't recommend the siege barrack, but it is an option as well, as we will cover next up. Now, some of you may be asking, what about single target infernos if you're seeing 2 to 3 of them? Well, you can always modify it to bring bat spells, introducing the Zap Bat Slap, something that you guys might enjoy if you're seeing a lot of single target infernos and or 2 singles and 1 multi. Normally, what you're going to do is you're going to treat this very similarly to a Zap Witch already. So you're going to use the lightning spells to take care of one multi-inferno, even if it's in a compartment alone. Usually though, what I would recommend is try to get rid of multiple structures. If you notice that you can get rid of 2 wizard towers, you may also want to use them in between those buildings in order to 1, create the funnel, and also 2, get rid of other splash buildings with just using 3 lightning spells while still touching the Inferno Tower, and also getting rid of wizard towers and possibly also some other structures around there like air defenses. So you want to be able to easily get through. Now on this example here, we're using the Siege Barrack, and like I mentioned, the Siege Barrack isn't too common. However, if you can get all the way across the base without having to use the log launcher or the wall wrecker, the Siege Barrack is probably your second best choice if you're going in towards the town hall. The log launcher and them just don't really do anything outside of that. So you want to be able to use the lightning spells first to get through the multi-target inferno if there is one. If it's set to single, you can still do that too. You're just going to create a little bit of funneling. Then you have got the super giants and the witches going in. Now you may have also noticed the hog riders in the army composition. Why is that? Well, the hog riders are there to support. This is something that I haven't really seen before. I've never seen someone take a couple hog riders and just use them at any point. So something that you may want to consider using, as it can provide a lot more value than just using the golems, ice golems and witches, or the super giants and witches. So that way what you're able to do is easily work your way in. You can open up a single target inferno compartment. You can use the Warden Eternal Tome early to protect as many witches and super giants. That way you're getting right the way into the base, and that way you can also even use those hog riders like I mentioned, as you are there to support as you're moving in. You can even take down the town hall. Even if you don't have that warden ability, you can use the free spell and you'll be perfectly fine. As you can see, getting closer to that eagle artillery. Now, most of this base has been taken down. We only have about 3 wizard towers left up on the base. That's usually a good sign to start your bat spells. 4 to 5 bat spells is what you're typically going to be bringing, and you're going to be using them like this, a bat wave. For those of you who don't know what a bat wave is, you're using them on the outside and then using the free spells to get through. Normally, you want to try and use those frees as soon as you can. The sweeper actually helped him there get through the bats, and sometimes you can sacrifice a few of them as you move through, but usually you will be able to get through the rest of the buildings, even if a couple of your bats die out due to a wizard tower. But for the most part, the bats combined in with the skeletons and the witches just provide so much support and value that you're able to get through even if there are double or triple single target infernos. And this attack is way better than it would seem than just using a regular Zap Witch. Now, boosting the witch is a different story. It becomes insanely more overpowered. The Super Witch Smash is an incredibly viable and super easy attack. Usually, though, you are unfortunately going to be starting with a Warden Walk. Normally, you want to look to go in towards the town hall with the witches. However, sometimes you could attack away from it. Usually it depends on the jump value. What I mean by this is if you can get all the way across the base with 2 jump spells, but you have to use a couple super wall breakers, that is the choice that you have to make. Likewise, you can use a log launcher and throw the super wall breakers out the window, because the log launcher can get you all the way across the town hall, no ifs, ands, or buts. So you want to be able to get to that town hall as quickly as you can, or even as slowly as you can. But the main goal here is to start the funnel off by using the Zap Quake and the Warden Walk. Normally with the Warden Walk, you are going to be starting that off and then using the lightning spells and the earthquake. This is usually going to be done on a multi-inferno or other structures that you can create a little bit of pathing with so your super witches go in the right direction. But usually if you don't have access to a Warden Walk, so you don't have a level 30 or 40 Warden, you can use a Queen Walk instead, and that can still provide much more value as well, depending on how the compartments are set up and how much you have funneled already. Now, usually the way that you're going to lure the warden over is by dropping either the queen or the super witches with them. That's when you're going to be able to keep the super witches going this direction while also having the use of the king, siege barrack, and witches to create the other side of the funnel. That way you can control where your super witches will be going towards. Usually dealing with an enemy CC like this is not really that big of a deal, as super witches can just shred through CC troops. They really just can't die under healers. The trick here is to make sure that the healers are going from your heroes, i.e. the warden or queen, onto the super witches and the big boys. Using the Warden Eternal Tome early to get through the Town Hall is exactly what you want to try and do. They don't really need the Warden ability over the Town Hall, and that way you can still enter through the base, make it simple. You've even got Hog Riders to provide even more support, very similar to the Zap Witch and how you would have them to support your witches. You've got them to support your super witches. And as you're moving all the way across the base, you may still have that queen ability. They just provide so much value for being a tank. But the main goal is to easily get through with the super witches, and if you have other troops up, like the P.E.K.K.A., like maybe some of the big boys, or even some of the regular witches, they can provide a ton of value while you get through. So even if your queen dies out, you will still be able to get through this because the super witches almost cannot die when they are underneath healers. Now, of course, you can always go ahead and use the super witches and the regular witches, but I find that the super witch smash to be a easy and very, very good option to use. So if I were you, I would use this with the siege barrack if you're new, but if you're a bit more seasoned, you can always use the log launcher with it to spice things up and to make this attack a slightly bit better, especially if you don't have a warden walk and you don't know what else to use with the super witches. If you still want to use the super witches but you want to ditch the warden walk, you can always just add the super witch slap to your arsenal of attacks. This is by far one of my favorite super witch based attacks that's incredibly easy and overpowering. This attack just uses it like a standard witch slap like you would see at Town Hall 9. What you're going to do is you're going to use a couple super witches on one side of the base with 2 healers to create one side of the funnel. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. That way you can control where your siege barrack, your heroes, and your bowlers go. Very similar to how you would bring bowlers in a Town Hall 9 Witch Slap. That's exactly what you're doing to get all the way across the base with 2 jump spells. Pretty simple, right? And this does work against chunkier bases like this, or thinner bases where it's a little bit easier for this type of attack. Normally, you're going to be starting with the use of a couple super witches, 2, and then also pairing that up with 2 healers. You're going to do the same thing on the other side to create enough of a funnel. You want to make sure that the healers stay on your super witches, as that way they're being healed up, and that way they're not taking nearly as much damage. Usually you want to be able to start this off by using the siege barrack, the heroes, and the bowlers. Now usually this, like in this base here, if there is a near outside town hall, you may want to use the Warden Eternal Tome. This early Warden ability will protect the bowlers, the heroes, and any of the wizards and P.E.K.K.A.s that are moving into the base. This is incredibly important because you want to be able to protect them for as much as you can as you start moving all the way across the base with the jump spell. Getting rid of the eagle and getting rid of the multi-infernos is incredibly important. That's exactly what you want to do. You've even got Hog Riders here as you continue to move all the way across. They pretty much act as support for any super witches that don't really have many healers, or there's not that many super witches. That way you can continue to provide more support. Sometimes though, unfortunately, you may lose a large portion of your attack. Like in this example here, you still have the queen up here, but unfortunately, she's going to get picked off so much so that she is going to fall. So even though we have lost the king and the queen, we still have Hog Riders, super witches, and the warden. This really goes to show that this is a very strong army to use, even if your final few troops are big boys, maybe some wizards, and also other troops. And that one wizard was actually phasing through the wall, if you just noticed that. But mainly, to make sure that you're able to get through the base is exactly what you want. You want to be able to have something like this throughout the entire base. Having the super witches up with the healers is extremely important. Sometimes you may want to use the balloons to soak up any Seeking Air Mines, and sometimes you may even want to bring free spells to provide more support against singles. Outside of that, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell for more educational yet fun Clash of Clans content here. Let me know what you guys want to see next here on the channel. I'm going to try and bring that for you guys. And also, make sure to use code Corrupt in any Supercell game, or if you plan on purchasing the Gold Pass or any packs here in Clash of Clans. And I'll be catching you next video. Corrupt, signing out.